So, what's up everyone? Matagal-tagal na rin ako hindi nakapag-live, so many things happened already and vacation ng ating mga teachers right now. And ako rin, nagbakasyon. Kasi, inubos ko na yung forced leave ko. So, yun. Um, so yun nga, I was supposed to go live during the time na nilabas na yung DepEd Order number 20, which was the, ano nga tawag nitong policy na to? Kalimutan ko, ano tawag nitong policy na to? Guidelines on the recruitment, selection, and appointment to higher teaching positions. So that was released last December 20, 2024. And it's, parang initial niya is, so meron na tayong parang systematic na processes involved in the selection process for higher teaching positions. So ito yung sinasabi ko before, na yung first na nilabas na hiring guidelines, hindi kasama doon yung T2 pataas. Kasi ginagamit ng iba. Kunyari, magpapromote sila ng T2 to T3 or at T2 to T3, T3 to T3, T1 to T2, T2 to T3. O, yun. So, ginagamit nila na guidelines yun. Sabi ko, hindi. Kasi maliwanag naman yung nakalagay doon, yung guidelines na yun for hiring for teacher 1 positions, meaning yung vacancy ng T1. And then, yung mga non-teaching kasama din doon. So, yun lang yung hindi kasama doon yung promotion. And hindi rin kasama doon yung reclassification. And I know some schools actually opted to use that guidelines. So, wala naman din tayo hindi tayo makakapag tawag nito, hindi naman natin sila pwedeng anuhin or parang sabihan na mali yung ginagawa nila kasi hindi naman talaga tayo yung hindi naman tayo involved dun sa school nila. But that was basically clear na yun nga, it's not something that should be applied sa ibang processes. And then maliwanag naman kasi doon, yung nakalagay doon T1 lang. Ewan ko ba kung bakit yung ibang, well, anyway. So right now we have this one, which is yung policy guidelines naman para sa T2 to T3, T3, T4 hanggang T7. And then following that would be the master teachers. So basically teaching positions sa schools. Ito yung policy involved doon, no? So when I first saw the policy, initial reaction ko wow, at least meron na. Hindi ko pa siya binasa. Hindi ko siya agad binasa. So, it was the day after pa, saka ko siya binasa. And doon ako medyo, well, I browsed through it nung first siya nilabas. Tiningnan ko lang yung mga headers niya. Una ko kasi tinitingnan talaga yung rationale. Tingnan ko man yung rationale, ano yung lagay doon. And then after that, browse lang. And then, the day after, tiningnan ko yung contents niya talaga. Sabi ko, magla-live ako. Pero, tinamad. And then, maingay kasi sa place namin and I don't have any other avenues para makapag-live except sa gabi na hopefully medyo tahimik na. And right now, muulan kasi. So, wala nakatambay sa labas. And, so, siya, medyo tiyempo tayo, na, medyo naglilo na yung mga background noise dito sa community namin. A while ago, I decided, sabi ko magla-live na ako. And then, biglang nag-ingay, nag-video ko yung kapitbahay. Wala ko magawa. Wala nga naman sabihin na, oy, tama na, magla-live ako. Hindi naman pwedeng ganun. Anyway, so, let's begin. So what can I say sa ano niya, sa policy talaga? Basically, um, nagbigay sila ng mga minimum qualifications, ano, na standardized na. So, browse ko lang. Yung mga nasulat ko kanina, nabasa ko kanina, sa nakasulat dun sa policy, nagbigay sila standardized na educational attainment. Ni-mention din doon yung training or workshop, seminars na attended, nabibilangin din pala. So ngayon, instead na pabigatan ng training, ang mangyayari ngayon, hindi lang pabigatan, paramihan din. Ganun na siya eh. Yun yung ano niya. So kunwari, for this particular criteria, ito yung hinahanap. So ilan yung training na ano mo doon, attend mo doon? Ilang araw? Ilang oras ka ba nakapag-attend na ganun klaseng training? So yun, kukwentahin na yun. Previously kasi, magkukumpit tayo kung ano yung pinakamabigat. Kung meron bang district, school-based, district, or division-based na training, yung division-based lang yung kukunin. Hindi na i-count yung district or yung school. Right now, i-count na siya. Tsaka kung multiple division na seminar workshops na natinan mo, so ilang araw yun? Ilang days ba yung natinan mong ganun? So yun, ganun ang pag-count sa kanya. Which is better, actually. Especially kung meron kang national training, di ba? So kung marami kang national training, lahat yun, bibilangin kung ilang araw ka naka-attend ng national training, which is better. So hindi niya ini-neglect, maalis yung notion na meron naman ako isang national training, naka-attend ako na isang international workshop, okay na yun. So hindi ganon. Paramihan din. Hindi lang pabigatan, paramihan din. It's not just about the quality, also the quantity. Much balance siya pag ganito. Ano? Ang problema lang doon, hindi siya na-mention, we'll mention it later on, hindi na-mention doon kung ano yung hierarchy ng point system involved regarding sa training. Kunwari, may mga natinan kang training for this particular criteria, puro school-based siya. You attended a total of 40 hours of training for that. Ako naka-attend ng national training, 2 days lang or 3 days lang. So ano yung rating scale nun? Mayroon ba tayong recalibration na mas mabigat yung national kaysa dun sa district? Even though number of hours is mas marami yung sa district or sa school compared sa national. And then, yung number of times na nag-attend ka ng ganun. So, kasi kasama na siya eh. So, hindi lang siya na-mention doon specifically. So, hopefully, during the orientation ng mga division HR MPBS, pwede ma-raise nila itong concern na to. But, browse lang muna tayo. So, that's the second thing. The third would be the experience. Yung experience mo, total years of experience for that particular applicational requirement na kailangan mong ma-attain for that particular position. And then, of course, eligibility. Ano pa ba? Yung competency requirements na na-mention din doon based on the civil service resolutions. So, yun yung mga mga minimum requirements niya. Na-mention din doon yung mga external applicants, yung performance requirements for external applicants, internal applicants, etc., etc. And yung mga basic lists of requirements for the application, yung letter of intent, personal data sheet. Siguro yung mga bago lang is yung proof of residency. Yun, yung bago yata yun. For T1 applicants, mabigat siya, pero sa T2, T3, and T4, even sa master teachers, hindi kasi siya mabigat na issue, yung proof of residency eh. Di ba? It's not something na kinikater pa. Pero ngayon, kasama na kasi siya doon. So, meron ng proof of residency. So, ano ba mangyayari doon? Hindi rin binanggit kung mas prioritize ba talaga nila yung mga external applicants na local compare doon sa mga internal applicants pero mas malayo yung tinitirhan. So, yun, yung tanong doon. Di ba? Kasi magkakaroon din yun ng conflict eh. Kunwari ako, internal applicant ako for T3. T2 ako currently. Tapos, merong ibang applicant na sa ibang district for T3. Doon siya mag-a-apply sa inyo. Sino bang mas priority? Kung kunwari, pareho kayo. Pareho kayo mag-a-apply sa position na yun. Sino bang mas mabigat sa inyo ng point system doon sa requirement na yun? Or mayroon ba siyang point system talaga or wala? So, can you be disqualified if ever ganon? Hindi kasi sir binanggit eh. Ano pa? Professional licenses, yung PRC, board rating, kasama pa rin. As if that would still matter. Weird. Ano lang siguro, yung scholastic records na nabanggit din dun, yung educational background mo, kung meron kang units, master's degree, or units for doctorate degree, etc. Yun, mabigat yun. Pero, hindi rin kasi kasi we're still going to be looking at the QS ng civil service eh. So, babalik pa rin sa minimum requirements na binanggit previously. So, especially sa master teacher applicants, kung master teacher 1 ka, ganun pa rin eh, units pa rin siya eh. So, yan lang talaga yung ano ko, yung pinagtatakhan ko, you don't have a master's degree, but you're a master teacher. It's so weird. It really doesn't fit. 'Di ba? How can someone be a master teacher kung hindi nga niya mabigyan ng professional growth yung sarili niya for a master's degree? So, kahit sabihin mo may units, so are we going to say na maha-hire yung hindi na full-fledged master's degree holder compared sa meron simply because of the number of certificates na mas mabigat yung hindi nakatake ng master's degree? Sabihin natin nakaka-hire siya, we will not be, it's an insult to the higher educational institutions that institutions in our agency will opt to hire someone who doesn't have a full-fledged master's degree versus someone who has one simply because this person, the former, has multiple certificates to back up his record. So, para sa akin, no, I don't think that's actually fair. Para dun sa mga who opted to actually go to school, to study, to learn more of his or her craft, i-compare mo someone na umattend lang ng mga training, tapos pagdating naman talaga sa training, hindi naman lahat nakikinig. Yun, picture taking lang, nagsiselfie. Oh, well, excuse me but reality speaks for itself. Totoo yun. Karamihan sa mga nakikita ko nag-a-attend ng training, hindi naman nakikinig eh. Nandun lang for the pictorial. Nandun lang para sa certificate. Kaya wag sana nagagawin nating merong equitable yung car holder na maraming certificates ng training dun sa full-fledged holder ng master's degree. Much more kung meron siyang doctorate or unit sa doctorate degree. Kaya, that's one thing. Ano pa ba yung mga additional requirements na nabanggit doon? Performance ratings, checklist ng yung sa omnibus something, and then of course yung portfolio. Yun lang man yata. Meron pa ba? Oh, teka, nag-zoom in yung OBS ko. Wait. Ano nangyari dito? So, yun. Yun yung mga nakita ko na binanggit kanina, na nabasa ko kanina sa policy. Ano pa ba? Mga considerations na nabanggit as well were, of course, yun nga, yung localization, learning area specialization, especially sa secondary and junior high school, teaching experience, and then yung mga beneficiaries ng mga national laws and programs and partnerships, yung sa SNT Scholarship Act of 2013. So nabanggit din siya doon, ano. So isa yan siya sa mga nabanggit doon, which I find to be parang something new. Hindi naman kasi siya masyadong tawag nito, kino-consider before. But right now, nandun siya sa policy talaga. More or less, yun yung nandun. So, what are my initial concerns as far as the policy is, stipulated, or whatever was provided in the policy? First, yung yung sa behavioral, yung sa BI, yung sa interviews, yun yung yung sabi ni ma'am, may mga na-promote to MT1 and MT2 hindi full-fledged. Oo nga, yun din. As I mentioned nga, it's for me, I will never hire someone na marami siyang certificates of training in workshops that are hosted by DepEd. I will not hire that person to become a master teacher if hindi siya master's degree holder. Hindi. Master's degree nga eh. Siguro before, noon, consider natin na we have master's degree, master teachers, yung mga, especially sa mga tenured na nasa service for about 15, 20, 30 years na siguro, na hindi nila natapos yung master's degree course nila or wala silang master's degree. Siguro, I will consider na sila nga at during that time, kukunti lang yung mga nag-aaral who opted to grow, to develop their craft sa masters. So, I would understand noon. Ngayon, hindi na. Hindi na siya pwedeng gawing dahilan. Sa dami ng mga institutions right now who offers master's degree, and sa dami ng mga state universities within our localities, hindi na dahilan na wala kang master's degree and then naging master teacher ka. Masaktan na yung masaktan. For me, you are not qualified. For me, you are not you are not worth it. Kasi wala siyang hindi ko nakikita yung value mo to actually develop your professional growth, to enhance your craft. Hindi ko nakikita sa'yo, makikita yun sa'yo kung hindi mo kayang piliing mag-aral. Kaya nga tayo tinawag na public school teachers kasi we have a teaching degree. Minimum requirement yun to become a teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3. Meron kang complete degree on education. So, bakit pag master's degree na, a master teacher na, hindi master's degree holder yung i-hire natin? It crisscross. Merong intersection dapat doon. Tapos tatanggalin natin. Nawawala yung parallelism niya. So for me, no. Hindi naman sa sinasabi ko mas magaling ako sa civil service, but I am saying the civil service is at fault right here. Kung hindi nila yan i-consider. Someone who has a master's degree, full-fledged master's degree, are the only ones that I believe should be qualified to become a master teacher. Pag-aakyatin na sana yan sa master teacher 4, 5, 6, kapag nandoon na master teacher 4, 5, 6, or kung magkakaroon man ng master teacher 7, kapag nandoon na, for me, dapat at least meron ka ng doctorate degree. Hindi po pwedeng maging master teacher 4 ka pataas na wala kang doctorate degree. In the same token, kaya nga nagtataka talaga ako sa merit selection plan ng DepEd and then how civil service formulated the minimum requirements. Example, yung school head, Yung principal. Yung principal 1 is salary grade 19 ba? Tama ba? 19 ang principal 1. Kailangan niya ng NQuest. Kailangan niya ng National Qualification Examination for School Heads. Na kailangan nakatake siya doon. Kailangan passer siya. At the very least, kailangan pumasa siya. Pero bakit yung education program supervisors walang exam? Which is salary grade 22. At the same... Kaya medyo ano ko eh, parang, ba't ganun? Hindi siya walang ano, parang it's not logical na kung kailan tumaas yung position, tumaas yung salary grade, hindi siya dumaan ng examination. Yung salary grade 19 ba ang P1, na principal 1, kailangan pa mag-take ng test. Tapos, yung education program supervisors, nagmamanage sila na hindi lang ng isang school, division. Ang minamanage nila, program ang minamanage nila, learning area ang minamanage nila, na dinideliver ng lahat ng schools. Tapos hindi sila magtitake ng exam. It's so weird. I really find it odd, strange. Well, to be extreme, I find it very wrong. But anyway, so yun nga, as I mentioned, first na napansin ko sa DO20 na issue or concern, balikan ko lang, is medyo subjective siya sa assessment nga niya. So, subjective siya, and then there are certain inconsistencies dun sa DO20. Yun nga yung una, yung sa behavioral, yung BEI, yung interviews, behavioral something yun, masyado siyang reliant sa interpretation ng interviewer doon sa applicant. So, walang provision, walang standardized metric na inilabas doon sa policy kung papaano i-officiate ng interviewer na magiging consistent yung evaluation process sa lahat ng schools within the division, and sa lahat ng division within the region, and sa lahat ng region across the country. So, walang inilabas na standardized metric para doon. In other words, yung interviewer, magiging subjective siya. Kasi maaaring yung opinion ng interviewers sa maaaring sagot ng mga applicant may be positive or less positive, depende kung sino yung magiging interviewer. Sabihin na natin standardize yung mga questions na ibibigay. O, ito yung magiging tanong sa interview. Lahat tayo, ito yung magiging tanong natin. So, depende rin kung ano magiging sagot ng applicant, depende kung sino yung interviewer, maaaring agree or disagree, satisfied or not somewhat satisfied, yung interviewer sa magiging sagot ng applicant. It could be that one applicant's response is already heightened pagdating doon sa ibang interviewer. But for a particular interviewer, sasabihin niya, I'm not totally satisfied. So may magagawa ba yung applicant doon? Wala. Kasi subjective siya. Yun yung problem doon. And then napakalaking bagay naman sana yung interview. Kasi kung hindi siya bibigyan ng kaukulang pansin, ba't pa natin inilagay yung interview doon? If we can do away with it, then let's just remove it. Diba? And then, yung portfolio annotations na binanggit doon sa policy. So, again, magiging subjective din siya. And then, it will of course, kasi nga subjective siya, it may result into inconsistency dun sa mga maaaring atasan na mag-evaluate doon sa mga portfolios. Especially kung, take note of this especially kung iba-iba yung understanding nila kung ano yung interpretation nila sa definition ng what is a good performing applicant based on the documents provided or shown within the portfolio. So, yun yung isa. So, maaaring for one assessor or one evaluator ng portfolio, para sa kanya, ang good performing na presentation ng mga portfolio annotations na nakita niya, it could be nasa scale ng 1 to 5 lang yung magiging niya, interpretation niya, tapos din sa isa is masyadong strict. 1 to 10 yung metrics niya. Yung 5 ng kabila, para sa kanya 3 lang. Or maaaring yung 7 sa kanya, doon sa kabila, 2 lang. So, kasi walang standardized metric. Kung ano ba yung masasabi nating good performing applicant based on the portfolio assessment. And additionally, magkakaroon na naman tayo ng issue doon sa maaaring opinion ng assessor o ng evaluator on what is a good portfolio. Maaaring yung evaluator, ang gusto niya, ganito yung arrangement ng portfolio, gusto ko yung maganda yung presentation niya. So, focus din pala siya sa aesthetics. E paano kung yung applicant magaling sa art, so mas malaki yung score ng portfolio niya compared dun sa isang applicant na hindi artistic or hindi preferred ng assessor yung ganitong arrangement ng mga portfolios. So these are matters on portfolio assessment that were not clearly stipulated within the policy kung paano ba nila ito i-evaluate consistently across multiple evaluators. So, yun yung mga bagay na I was hoping na sana na naging clear doon sa policy. Next would be, ano pa yung mga naisulat ko dito? Yung classroom observations. Walang specific measure to mitigate the inconsistency aside from the inter-observer agreement. Yun. Kasi, yung classroom observation kasi, ang problema kasi doon, kahit gaano pa ka standardized or detailed yung rubric, ang ending kasi rubric lang siya. Well, sabihin na natin yung rubric natin is 1 to 5. Yung rubric na 1 to 5, bibigyan mo yun siya ng description. Yung description na yun, walang specific na ends in terms of hanggang doon ko lang i-interpret yun as an evaluator. So, yung interpretation ng rubric will still be fallen into the interpretation or the opinion of the evaluator. Yun yung problema na naman dun. So, ang ending, lahat ng yun, nasa kamay ng evaluator, ng interviewer, kung kanina pa. So, ang nabanggit natin kanina. So, it's a big deal. Kasi parang ang lalabas lang, naglagay pa tayo ng standardization. So, ang mangyayari rin pala, nasa kamay rin pala ng evaluator lahat. So, another part would be the walang specific na strategic or statistical measure para doon sa inter-rater reliability doon sa mga evaluator. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin nun, maaaring inconsistent Yung magiging results nito, depende sa mga evaluator, which will ultimately imply na hindi reliable yung pag-conduct ng evaluation. Kasi once subjective ang ating mga standards na ginagamit, kapag subjective siya sa evaluator, sa interviewer, lahat, yung magiging responses ng mga applicants and even yung scoring na ginagawa ng mga evaluators will not be reliable across all applicants. Kaya nga, may mga sinasabing comments sa mga interview na, yung interviewer ko si ganito, bait-bait, si ganito, bait-bait, masyadong considerate, yung binigay niya na comment, ganito, ganyan, mas laki ng score ko. Pero alam mo, yung applicant is not someone na high-performing. Is not someone who is totally articulate when it comes to expressing his or her ideas. Tapos siya pa yung mas malaki ang score. Dahil lang sa interviewer or sa evaluator na na-assign sa kanya. Ano to? Just because of luck? Swerte-swertihan na lang? Pwede pala yun? You were promoted out of luck? Sheer luck? Next matter or aspect na napansin ko doon sa policy is may nabanggit about the HRMPBS being trained. Ang problema kasi sa training sa mga ganito, most often than not, orientation, hindi training. Di ba? I know kasi may mga natinan akong ganyan. Nung nasa division's office pa ako, ibibigay na lang yun ng policy. Pak, ito na yung policy. Orient kayo. Anong laman ng policy? Orientation lang siya. Kasi nga, we are expected na sabotable or parang we already gets the policy itself, which will be a problem later on. I will try to expound on that later on. Pero most often than not talaga, yung policy, nagbanggit siya about training, pero hindi binanggit as to how the training will be conducted, what types of training will be provided. Hindi siya binanggit doon. Ang problema kasi, it is essential that all HRMPBS members must show expertise of the qualification standards that are needed to be met for a particular position. Karamihan kasi, yung nag-hire, yung HRMPBS natin, especially sa non-teaching level, from the non-teaching level, they are not well acquainted with the PPST. Secondly, they are not mostly exposed with the current practices that are happening within the field, not just the practices of theory. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Mas madalas kasi oriented sila sa kung ano ang dapat, pero hindi nila alam kung ano talaga ang nangyayari. In other words, they could not bridge the gap between what is and what should be. Especially if they are not within the teaching field. Kung hindi naman talaga sila mga education, hindi education yung ano nila, yung passion nila. And as I mentioned a while ago, walang specific, walang detailed na minention sa policy about training programs, which will ultimately lead to misunderstandings and misinterpretation of the policy. So, maaaring may expectations yung policy pero hindi ma-meet simply because we lack the training facilities and programs that should be in toto with the existing policy. And of course, if ever magkahimala mang bigla na magbibigay ng extensive training ang ating national agency about this particular itong pusa ko talaga. Ang kulit. Halika. If ever magbibigay sila ng extensive training about this particular policy para ma-execute siya perfectly ng field, that would also mean budget allocation. That will also mean time allotment, which will ultimately be inefficient. Kasi mag-uubos ka ng oras. Kung binasa mo rin yung policy, insufficient yung binigay din doon na information about transparency. Saan doon? Binanggit doon na yun nga, importante yung transparency with the results, etc. Yes, napakaganda na sabihin na sinabi ng policy na magiging transparent siya. Pero ang problema doon, hindi explicit na binanggit doon na required yung HRMPSB to provide detailed reasons for their particular ratings ng mga applicants. Except na ibibigay or magpo-post ang HRMPSB ng mga results, and if ever magre-request ng clarification ang applicant. Pero walang binanggit doon na detailed na explanation kung bakit ganon yung naging result. Which is true. Minsan nga, hindi ina-announce yung result eh. Bibigla ka na lang, may na-hire na pala. Of course, binanggit din doon yung open ranking system. Ini-execute na yan na ngayon ng mga maraming offices. Ang problema doon, charge from experience, I'm gonna say this. Ang problema doon, hindi enough ang personnel who are fully qualified to conduct the hiring and evaluation process when it comes to a certain number, or a multitude of applicants. Ang ending, it also takes time. It also, when it takes time, it also removes, or it also implies na may mawawala na oras na supposedly na nandoon yung applicant nagtatrabaho. And then awkward pa talaga masyado. Kasi open ranking siya, magkakatabi kayong lahat. Magkakarinigan. Kikita mo, siniscorean doon, score doon, evaluate. Uy, bakit ganun yung pag-score doon? Iba lagi dito. Bakit iba dito, iba din doon? Mas marinig mo siya, uy, bakit? Paano yun? Oh, awkward. And then, ito na part. yung tinatawag ko parate na systematic biases. Ala! Hay! Yung systematic biases. Ano ba yun? Bias siya sa practices ng ating agency. It could be the school, it could be the district, it could be the division, it could be the region. Kasi it may be, quote-in-quote, lagyan natin ng quote-in-quote, quote-in-quote, it may be unintentional. Ay! Presumption of regularity. It has presumed that all things are regular. So, unintentional daw yung biases. Sometimes, yung evaluator or yung assessor, matsempohan niya na yung ma-assign sa kanya is someone na kilala niya or naging close na niya or nakaka-establish na siya ng relationship with that person, either as a network of friends or groups or past experiences, etc., etc. So, ang mangyayari, yun yung tinatawag nating unintentional bias. So, ang ending, of course, kasi nga, maano din siya, yung parang, kaya naman na hindi ko ito bigyan ng magandang score. Well, bibigyan ng malaking score. Ikaw, hindi ka kilala. So, wala kang kilala. Paano yun? And the problem with unintentional bias, ito yung inaabuso ng mga linta. Yung mga sip-sip. Yung kahit walang okasyon, may mga alay. O, di ba? Nako. Ito yung naging influence ng unintentional bias. Dami pa namang linta. Kahit walang okasyon, ayun na. May pamerienda, may pang-lunch, may paglit-lit pa. Kalakas mag-comment sa mga walang kwentang mga post ni boss at saka ni ma'am. Just to stay relevant. Pero performance-wise, wala namang laman. Ay, matamaan ng matamaan, magalit ng magalit. Totoo naman. Pag tinanong mo, empty brains. Empty brains, but deep pockets. Ayan. Yan yung unintentional biases. Ay. Ang tawag nila dyan, inaano yan eh, they cloak it within the context of networking. What the heck? Okay lang maging sip-sip kung kung sa akin lang ha, okay lang maging sip-sip ka sa tao kung makikita ko na talagang working ka, performing ka, talagang ikaw yung tipong kung trabaho pag-uusapan, may bubuga talaga. Pero kung dun ka lang talaga sa sip-sip, mahilig ka lang mag-alay, diyan ka lang magaling, you're not the right person for that job. Linta ka, linta. Another problem with the policy na nakita ko is yung diversity. Sinasabi ng policy na binavalue niya yung diversity. However, wala namang clear provision on how to express or to manifest a clear focus on diversity. Binanggit doon yung yung Equal Employment Opportunity Clause. Binanggit doon. Yung part na yan, binanggit yan doon. Pero walang binanggit doon in terms of how to operationalize and monitor its implementation. Walang naibanggit doon about that. Maaaring nagkamali ako, pero tingnan nyo, pero wala ako nakitang binanggit yan doon, kaya hindi ko makalimutan yung part na yan. And then sa part ng M&E, yung monitoring and evaluation, binanggit doon sa policy that there must be an existing call on monitoring, evaluation, and feedback mechanisms para doon sa pag-execute ng policy, pag-implement ng policy. Pero, walang clear provision on how these mechanisms and implementations will be measured. Ewan ko kung meron silang standardized metric para dyan, but I don't think na merong one-size-fits-all na standardized tool to measure monitoring and evaluation ng mga implementing units. Imposible magkaroon ng iisang standardized o universal tool para dyan. Iba-iba yan. Hindi magkakapareho ang M&E tools. Kung a program, these programs, M&E, is different from another program's M&E. Kasi hindi magkakapareho ang kanilang tina-target na objectives. Walang standardized test. Kung sa estudyante pa, hindi pa pwedeng lahat ng mga bata magtitake ng standardized test sa isang subject para sa lahat ng subject. Walang ganun. And then, on the aspect of accountability, binanggit sa policy na yung HRMO, yung HRMPBSB, yung mga appointing officials, sila yung magiging accountable. Pero, walang specific mechanism na binanggit sa policy on how will these individuals be accountable for their errors or their malfeasance within the recruitment and selection processes following the said policy. Kunwari, if any entity within the HRMO, the HRMPSBS, or the appointing officials, kunwari, if any of this entity will be proven guilty of the aforementioned, ano ang magiging repercussion doon? And if ever nagbigay na ng appointment itong mga units na ito, provided na meron parang, technicalities na hindi nasunod, anong mangyayari doon sa nirelease na appointment? And ano ang magiging punishment? Ano ang magiging contest? Hanggang saan ang contest? Ano ang mechanism that will be followed or the processes involved that should be used by the applicant? Kunyari, magko-contest ako. Yes, I've experienced that. Nag-file ako ng contest, wala naman nangyari. So, I did not push to it. Nag-contest ako, not necessarily na gusto kong ilaban yung particular I was more into seeking clarification kung bakit ganun ang naging processes involved. Wala na akong pake kung sino yung na-hire. Ang gusto ko lang malaman anong nangyari mga processes involved. Pero wala namang walang sagot. Kaya hanggang policy lang minsan eh. Hanggang papel lang tayo most of the time. And ito, yung fairness and equitability for external and internal applicants outside the actual teaching items or entities. Example, meron kang external applicant, binanggit doon sa policy eh. na open daw for external applicants yung mga selection ng mga items for higher teaching positions. Binanggit yun dun eh. So, ibig sabihin, maaari palang magkaroon ng external applicant for T2, T3, T4, MT1, MT2, maaari palang magkaroon ng external applicant doon. Kalagayan doon. O, sabihin na natin maaari nga. And then maaari, kung maaari ang, excuse me ba yan? And kung maaaring magkaroon ng external applicants for such positions, it also means na maaari rin magkaroon ng internal applicants from other existing positions within the agency. Yung mga school in charge, mga head teachers, even yung school principal na gusto maging master teacher. So, maaari pala siyang mag-apply. Ano? So, granted na ganun nga, ang problema, binanggit lang yan siya doon sa policy na maaari nga. Pero walang binanggit kung ano ang maaaring evaluation system that will be used for external applicants. Hindi naman maaari na gagamitin natin ang same metric for teaching within the same agency. Kunwari, ako mag-a-apply, T2 ako mag-a-apply ng T3. So, nandito ako sa particular na school namin. So, yung most often than not, yung mga requirements na nakalagay doon, aligned sa akin kasi I'm currently teaching. Pero kung external applicant siya, mahihirapan siyang i-align yung mga existing na requirement na sinabi ng mga qualification standards ng civil service and even the documentary requirements doon, mahihirapan siya kasi external applicant siya. And even so, kunwari ako, non-teaching ako, head teacher ako, currently head teacher ako, gusto ko maging master teacher. Kung same ang metrics na gagamitin sa teaching, tsaka sa akin na non-teaching, it's not fair. Kasi iba yung functions ko. So, why am I measured within the same context na minimeasure mo si teacher? When we are applying for the same position, higher position naman kaya siya. Kunwari, master teacher. Teacher siya, T3. Ako, HT. Mag-a-apply ng master teacher. Siya, mag-a-apply din siya ng master teacher. Kung same yung metrics namin dalawa, lamang siya. Kasi most often than not, yung metrics na ginagamit ninyo is presuming na yung nag-a-apply ng master teacher position galing sa teaching position. Pero sinabi ng policy, open na siya for external applicants. So meaning, pati kami, open din siya para sa amin. So ano ang metrics ninyo para sa amin? Yung master teacher nag-o-observe ng klase. Yung head teacher nag-o-observe ng klase. Yung teacher in charge nag-o-observe ng klase. Trabaho namin yun. Nandun yun sa KRA namin. Pero wala yun siya sa qualification standards na binanggit doon sa existing policy, and even in DO20, hindi siya nilagay doon. Walang specific na recalibration measure or recalibration na tool or even processes na nakastipulate sa policy for us, mga external or internal applicants outside the existing teaching responsibilities. So, ang tanong ngayon, someone who has been observed since T1, T2, and T3, or sabihin natin T4, T5, T6, T7, mas magiging qualified pa pala siya kaysa dun sa tao na who has been observing them, who was deemed qualified to observe classes. Mas magiging qualified pa siya? Di ba, hindi na naman siya hindi naman nag-aabot. Wala kasing binanggit doon sa policy kung ano magiging recalibration para doon sa mga metrics, para sa mga external and internal applicants outside the teaching position, the current teaching practices. Wala siyang nilagay doon. And of course, yung issue about relevant experiences, nilagay dun sa policy na mabigat yung sinasabi nating relevant experiences. Kasi nga, yun yung fitness eh. Fit ba yung applicant for that particular position na kukunin niya. So yun magkasama yan silang dalawa. Relevant experiences will also influence fitness. Same yan. Hindi same. Merong influence dyan. Merong relationship doon. Ang tanong, anong relevant experiences ng mga external applicants and similarly kami na nasa non-teaching field but we are within the context of teaching and learning delivery, ano ang metrics namin for relevant experiences na binanggit sa policy? Wala. Wala siya dun. And because of that, ang ending niya, unappreciated, yung mga programs, activities, and even practices of innovations na ginagawa ng mga non-teaching and external applicants or ginawa nila that should have been part of the factors that should be attributed kung paano natin i-measure ang tinatawag nating relevant experiences that influences who are fit for that particular position. Diba? Hindi kasi yun siya binanggit And then, nakalagay lang dun, classroom observable indicators, yung mga COIs. Paano i-achieve yun ng mga non-teaching? Si teacher in charge, paano niya i-achieve yun kung mag-a-apply siya ng higher teaching position? Si school head, si non-teaching na head teacher, pero academic, tapos isa pa yan, yung academic teacher, yung academic head teacher, na non-existing naman talaga in the first place. Wala namang item na academic head teacher. Wala naman yun sa appointment. Wala namang specific na nilagay sa appointment na you are an academic head teacher. Ang nakalagay lang doon, head teacher. O paano natin i-identify yun? Saan natin kukunin yung classroom observation indicators? Sila yung mga process observers. Yung hinahanap sa policy, yung output ng mga process observers. Ngayon, yung process observer nga ang nag-a-apply. Paano yun? Hindi nga binanggit yun sa policy. Yun yung problema. Silent ang policy dun. Parang ang labas niya, masakit man sabihin, parang it's just for compliance na binanggit sa policy na, it's open for external applicants. Pero wala namang measure para dun. Ang ending, disadvantage pa rin yung external applicants or yung mga non-teaching applicants. At the end of the day, say, 1 hour na ako, mag-go 1 hour na. At the end of the day, I would like to share na I have been trying to communicate with the central office. Been sending them emails. Dami kong query sa kanila. Masaktan na sila na masaktan. So, most often than that, hindi naman sila sumasagot I-acknowledge lang nila yung email mo, hindi naman nila sasagutin yung query mo. And I know a few people in the central office, pero it doesn't mean na I can directly ask them to respond to me. Hindi naman ganun. Pero yun nga, ang nangyari kasi is sana kumuha sila ng inputs from teachers talaga. Sana yung mga policies, invite tayo ng mga teachers from small size, from large size, from extra large, huge schools, from elementary, secondary. Kuha talaga tayo ng inputs. Hindi lang from Manila. Nationwide. Kasi ang maaapektuhan ng policy, buong bansa naman, hindi lang naman Metro Manila. Isa pa yan. Yung secondary teachers, yung mga licensed na secondary teachers, maaaring mag-apply sa elementary. Pero yung elementary hindi maaaring mag-apply sa secondary because of specialization. Being a generalist is a specialization. Pero bakit maaaring mag-apply yung secondary teacher sa elementary? Huwag kayo masaktan. By practice, ang influence ko is secondary education math. So, yun talaga yung kurso ko. Pero, naha-hire yung secondary teachers, licensed secondary teachers, sa elementary. Bakit? Hindi po pareho ang approach ng secondary teaching sa elementary teaching. I can say that because my education degree when I was in Ateneo is secondary education mathematics. And then I took up an elementary education course sa USEP, sa University of Southeastern Philippines. Iba ang approach sa pagtuturo sa high school, sa pagtuturo sa elementary. Ang laki ng pagkakaiba. Tapos magtataka kayo, bakit nahihirapang mag-adjust yung mga ibang teachers? Kasi ginag-hire kayo from secondary, nilalagay nyo sa elementary. Yung approach ng pagtuturo niya, it is under the presumption na ang influence kasi niya is meron ng schema yung bata. Kasi secondary education eh. Meron ng foundation. Sa elementary, hindi. We are the ones that builds the foundation of the learner. Kami yung nag-establish ng schema sa elementary. Kaya karamihan sa mga bata, when it comes to the concepts, wala. So, magtataka kayo, bawa ng scores ng PISA. Absent yung concept eh. Alam, they can answer certain questions or problems in terms of how they understood it within the applicability of certain practices. Pero pagdating sa concept ng competency, wala. Absent ang bata. Pag tinatanong mo yung bata, 9 plus 6, ano sagot? 15. Pag tatanungin mo yan, bakit 15? Hindi niya kayang i-explain. Wala, absent yung concept eh. Alam niya paano mag-plus. Pero hindi niya alam ang concept of addition. Kung sa concept pa lang, absent na yung bata, what more do you expect when it comes to the higher thinking skills? Kaya nagtataka talaga ako. There's so many things that I still find strange sa existing na mga policies that are being implemented within our agency. I really hope na darating yung araw, no, na maayos natin siya, or darating yung time na yung mga magagaling, they would look at it and try to address these issues. Kumukuha tayo ng mga trainers. Ayun, sa matatag curriculum. Yung mga trainers natin for learning area, kasi content delivery eh. Kinukuha natin na trainers from secondary, pero ang tinitrain nila yung mga elementary teachers. Yung tinuturo na approach ng mga trainers, hindi naman fitted sa mga elementary. Magtataka kayo, bakit nahihirapang magturo yung mga nasa elementary? So anyway, As far as rationale is concerned of the policy, to sum it all up, parang ganito lang siya eh. Yung existing na QS standards ng hiring guidelines for promotion will still be followed. Yung mga metrics lang, binago. Kasama ng mga pagbabago na yon, certain provisions na dinagdag. Pero as far as how is the policy structured, ang dami pa rin yung butas. Dami ko nabanggit ngayong gabi sa loob ng isang oras. I hope I made sense. Ano? So, ang tanong doon, anong mangyayari doon sa mga butas na yon? So, when you execute the hiring processes of promotion and selection of higher teaching positions, kung ikaw, isa ka doon, tapos matatamaan ka ng mga, binanggit ko ng mga issues and concerns dito, saka mo ma-realize, tama talaga yung sinabi ni Sir Weds. Tama talaga, ito na talaga yun, oh, ito na talaga yun. Ang ending, wala ka rin magawa. Wala ka magawa. Eh kasi, wala naman kasing specific na instruction doon sa policy. What can you do after that? Contest? And then if ever you will be proven correct or ikaw yung right, you've been proven to be right in your contest or in your grounds of complaint, ano mayayari? Eh tapos na, nag-hiring na, tapos na hiring, alam mo sila, sino mga na-hire, ay pamigay na yung appointment, ano mayayari doon? Mayayari yan madalas, sige lang kayo, ano na lang, bali, sa next, ikaw na yung next, yung sa next vacancy. Does that correct it? No, it does not correct the mistake. They are merely trying to make a band-aid solution for their mistake. Kasi ikaw yung nasagasaan. Ikaw yung nasugatan sa pagkakamali nila. But it will not correct the practice. They will still follow the same practice. Ganun pa rin. Walang mababago doon. Nagkataon lang na ikaw yung nagreklamo. Ikaw yung nanalo. Beyond that, yeah. So, that's about it. I hope you learned something from my browsing of the existing policy. Kasi browse lang talaga yung ginawa ko. After that, sulat ko lang. Tinype ko lang pala. Kasi hindi ako magiling masulat eh. Basa, tapos basahin. Sulat ko. Tapos, yun, ganun lang. And then sabi ko, okay, ito magiging content ko mamaya. You can look it up. Yung mga mga nabanggit ko tonight. Kung agree ba kayo sa mga sinabi ko. And of course, if you think na nagkamali ako, call me out, post it in the comments below, tell me if I'm wrong para I can correct myself as well. I always stand to be corrected. And medyo lumalakas na yung ulan. Nandito ko sa balcony. And because of that, this ends our live broadcast for tonight. This is Sir Weds of ISF Media bidding you a pleasant evening to everyone. Bye-bye.